Show me your world, Chris.
Well, I thought we'd start with Christ's Tram Museum.
Great.
Dear Mum, Yorkshire is lovely, not like you said at all. They can smile, and they do sell my pasta sauce. The caravan bed is quite short, but Chris is a sensitive lover. Hope you can be happy for me. Love, Tina.
Yeah, good girl.
You are going to pick that up.
I didn't do that.
If you don't pick up this excrement immediately, then I'm going to have to inform the National Trust.
Report that to the National Trust, mate.
I don't want this to ruin our holiday.
Get in.
Never thought about murdering innocent people before.
It's not a person, Tina. He's a Daily Mail reader. Say one word and it's...
I get it, it's just thinking outside the box.
The police are pursuing a ginger-faced man and an angry woman.
Sit! You're a liability. You're just like your mother.
Has it gone wrong?
Yeah, a bit.
You didn't let him see you do number twos, did you, Tina?
We both said what a nice couple we thought you were. Oh, I love her.
I can fly!
Everyone else seems to find it so easy to express themselves. I mean, even you've got your knitting.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Eurogamer Developer Sessions. I think that's worth a round of applause, thank you. So today, obviously, we have a really cool speaker coming up. If you are interested in getting a job in the games industry, we also have a number of other career sessions going on today. So maybe after this one, if you're interested in, let's see what we've got, being an indie, something like games education, careers in games, basically it's loads of stuff. You queue in the same place, there'll be guys down there who can tell you about it. So yeah, if you're interested in this, then you might be interested in that. Anyway, without further rambling, our guest today doesn't require any introduction. He doesn't mind if you film him or take pictures. In fact, I think he'd love that. He is Chet from Valve.
Take the long way, or I don't know if I'm allowed to cut up there. Hello. Hi, I'm Chet from Valve. Or Chet Falsek from Valve. I thought you were going to try my last name. You didn't. It's OK. So my talk today is how to give yourself a job in the game industry. So first, let's make sure you're at the right talk. So if you're looking to be a mid-level executive and you want to choose the hair color of the heroine on the box cover, I don't know how to get that job for you. It's a valuable job. It's important, but I don't know how to get that job. But if you have a passion about creating something, then this is the right talk for you. So I'm going to go into a bunch of details throughout the talk, but let me give you the short version in case you want to go run down to the show floor, play some games, and catch up with some friends. If you want to get yourself a job in the game industry, create something. There you go. I mean, that's it. It's that easy. Think about it when we evaluate artists at Valve. Do you think we look at their resume or the art they created? We look at their art. And I've been serious, right? There's no gatekeepers, there's no requirements, there's no prior experience that you need. Just make something. So this is always a common thing, right? How do you get experience if you don't have experience, and every job requires experience? Here's the deal on that. Life isn't fair, okay? It's not their job to give you experience. It's your job. The best resume you can do is make something. So do it. So first, the good news. If you're participating in an indie game forum, or you're upvoting games on Steam Greenlight, or just if you're involved in the community of game developers at all, you're already helping, you're already being part of the process. It might sound underwhelming, but at Valve, we do this ourselves on internal projects, right? It might be we play test a game, and then we talk about it with the other team afterwards, or we do something as formal as what we call an Overwatch, and that's where we actually play customers to our own games. So if you're not participating, if you're not already part of that, do it. Go on Steam, upvote a game on Steam Greenlight, look at the items on Steam Workshop. If not on Valve's properties, do it somewhere else, but become involved. I'm going to say this a million times during this talk. because it's really important. Become involved. All right, but I get it. You want more. You want to get your hands dirty. You've already been involved. You've already been participated. So what do you do next? Well, you have to start. Most of this talk is going to deal with starting. It's pretty much broken up to the first half's about starting, and the second half, is about the rest. Because starting is really hard. It's debilitating. There's a million reasons why you shouldn't be starting. But really, you just need to start, because you're going to learn the best things by starting. And so start. You're ready right now. One of the most common excuses we jokingly call sharpening your pencils. Because, man, once I get these pencils sharpened, then I'm really going to get going. Once I get that new monitor, once I get that computer, stop. Whatever you have right now is good enough. Work with that. If there's a new version of the software coming in 3 months, don't worry. Whatever you learn about the current version is going to help you with the next one. So take what you have today and start. You're going to find out that some of the most important things you learn is just by starting, and you can never learn those until you start. And also when you start, you're going to have a bunch of happy accidents. You're going to find out things that you didn't know you wanted. This is an example. For this example, Brandon Chung, he's a single-man team behind Gravity Bone, Atom Zombie Smasher, and other games. He had a happy accident while making 30 Steps of Loving. He wanted to create dancers, and so he's procedurally created the dancers. He's given them the movement. He was going for kind of like them doing the wave. Instead, he got this. Okay, so to quote him, floating people is exactly what I didn't know I wanted. Right, there's no way he was going to know he wanted that until he started. And his games are a really good example of going with what you have. His art style, his feel of his games work because he makes them work. He's a one-man show, so he limits the scope of his games to something that he can execute on, which leads us to our next point. You want to start with a project with a realistic goal, something you can achieve. If your first goal is to create the best first-person shooter ever with the most realistic graphics, the best AI, blah, 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 you're going to fail. So you want to constrain your first project. And constraints aren't removing features. What constraints are is giving you an area to work in that you can push against. Right? So if you started with a blank page, you're just going to be overwhelmed with the possibilities. So you want to start with some constraints. And the cool thing is, right now in the game industry, unlike any other time, there's a bunch of different ways that you can start. You don't need to start as big as a game. I mean, for example, let's say you're a modeler. And instead of starting with a whole game, why don't you maybe make items or hats for a funny first-person shooter? And so people laugh about the idea of hats in TF2. There's people making a full-time living doing that. And they're not just scraping by. They're making six-figure income. We paid out millions of dollars to people making stuff. That was so successful that when the Dota 2 workshop opened up, over 80% of the items in that were from the community. This is just a good example of how the industry is changing. If we go back, let's say 5 years ago, it was way different to what you had to do. I mean, if you take a look at then, if you wanted to create something to get in the industry, you're looking about firing up an SDK, and then either you had to be it or you had to find a programmer, an artist, an animator, a musician. You probably started a website, you try to get a community to come to you, and the internet's littered with those projects that failed. That's really hard to do. Not to say you can't still do it that way, but that's really hard. And we hired Adam Foster from Minerva Mod, which is really great. And so it's a way you can still do it, but it's no longer the only way you can do it. You can do something that you can start just small, let's say with the Portal 2 puzzle creator. Right here inside the game, you can start creating puzzles. You just one click of a button, you're sending it out to Steam Workshop, you're having people play it, they're giving you feedback on it. Once you start creating maps, you're going to get a following. And a warning about any tool that's this easy. No one wants to play your map that took 10 minutes to make. I've actually gotten a Steam chat. Hey, this took me 10 minutes, check it out. No, I'm not going to. You have to put enough time into your work. You have to put enough effort, and you have to be proud of what you do and put it out there. It's scary to do that. It's scary to say, I put a lot of work into this. I think this is good. What do you think? But that's what you need to do. Excuse me. Because, you can tell the difference between somebody who did that and somebody who just whipped out a puzzle. And the cool thing is, so can the community. So if you're doing that, you're going to start getting followers. We have the puzzle creators have people who have over 10,000 followers. They're playing their games. They're playing what they worked on. But now that's a really easy start. And so if you want to do something more involved, there's other ways to do it as well. You could start with the Civ 5 editor, or the Skyrim creation kit. So I was talking with Joel Burgess from Bethesda, and he was saying that if you get hired as a designer at Bethesda, they first make you build a mod. And the reason they do that is they want to show your proficiency with the tools, your idea creation, and your ability to ship something. I'll get to it in a little bit, but shipping is the second most important thing you can do after starting. Okay, but let's say you don't have the traditional skills that you would find making a game, and you're not sure what to do. Okay, here's a letter sent to us last month. So now this guy's doing a bunch of really smart stuff. He's got free tools, he's making videos on YouTube, he's putting them out there, he's getting his name out there, but he doesn't know what to do next. He doesn't know how to connect what he's doing to the game industry. And this is one of the reasons why we released the Source Filmmaker. If you want to animate, if you want to make movies, make movies. We think the movies, the comics, and all of that are really important to the games. And what would TF2 be without the comics and the movies? If I can warn you with this tool, for as easy as the Portal 2 Puzzle Creator was, this tool's complex. It's what we use internally. It's difficult. But if you take a look on YouTube right now, there's a ton of great content created with this that's just, it's worth its weight in gold already just for having that released. And the people who are making that stuff, they're getting noticed. If you see the Scout versus the Witch, this was made by Randall Glass. He created this using the SFM, and this has become his resume, his calling card. He's actually gotten noticed from this. Actually, I got an email from him last night that he got hired because of this. So I got to change the slide. It's just not that he got noticed in some effort, but he actually got hired. And it's people see the work you do, and he put a lot of work into this. This was not easy, right? You have to do the work. But he had a passion for what he was doing, and that passion drove him to finish. And that gets me to my next slide, passion. So when I was working on this, everyone in my office mates kind of me for passion. It's easy to make fun of, but it's true. You need to have passion for what you're doing. And it's a good place to start. What are you passionate about? Start there. And hopefully your skills and your passions align. There's only one way to find out. You got to stop living in your head and start doing what you say you are. You're not an artist because you talk about creating art. You're an artist because you create art. I don't know if people know this or not, but Eric Wolpa and I got hired at Valve not by making games. Instead, we were writing about games. But it was that writing about games and Valve seeing the quality of work we were trying to do that got us hired. That's what got them excited. Oops, sorry. So, there's other people doing that as well. Matthew Lordeley is a good example. He made a really cool map we liked, got him to make Crash Course, which is a campaign we released on Left 4 Dead 2, and now he's gotten hired by Arcane and he's working on Dishonored. So it was his passion, his skill that brought him through that. And so having people play your games is just the ultimate networking. It gets your name out there, it gets you noticed. And another great example, it's not about Valve games, it's about any game. So this is Derek Paxton. He made the mod Civilization 4, Fall from Heaven. And this became his resume. He's got a job now at Stardock, where he's working on Fallen Enchantress. And he's an interesting person because his skill set that let him ship this, he was telling me it was based on that he could model all the battles out in Excel. I don't think many people are thinking, hey, I'm really good at Excel, so I'm going to make some really good games. But you don't know what you need to be good at until you start trying to make the games. And this isn't new, right? Valve's filled with people who've made content and that we've hired because we got excited about, from Counter-Strike to Team Fortress 2 to recently Tag the Power of Paint. The only thing that's changed is the scope of how you can do that. You can do smaller pieces now. But let's say you have an entirely worthless skill. Let's say you're a writer. All right, and it's just you can't start a project on your own, but so you've been writing, you've been putting yourself out there. And so a good example of this is my friend Will Porter. You might know him from PC Gamer. He moved on to the dev side a couple years ago. He worked for some companies, did some good work, but he didn't really make his mark until he hooked up with an indie dev team that needed a writer. And they put out Project Zomboid. And now it's up on Steam thanks to Steam Greenlight. And that's kind of the last piece in the Steam puzzle of this, is Project Greenlight. This has been something that we wanted to be able to have these developers find a community. And one way to do that is by having them put up games in Steam Greenlight. And the old way we used to do it is they would submit games to us. We'd have to go through them. We were backlogged. We were always behind. We were never sure if we're putting up the right games. So Steam Greenlight lets the community weigh in on what games should be put up there. And it's really important to us what games go up there because over 25% of our games are indie games. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And the other good thing is if you submit your game to Steam Greenlight, there's over 45 million people who are going to play it or at least look at it and give you feedback on it. And for everyone who's already been doing that, as they keep going through this, you're going to understand that that feedback and that process for people is really helpful. So thanks for doing that. Okay, so we just covered a bunch of ways to get started, right? You can start as small as an item in a game. You can do a mod. You can do a map. You can do a campaign. If you're good enough or big enough or experienced enough, you can do an entire game. But so once you've decided to do that, let's just say you've decided to make something, right? We're going to go from there. And you've got what you're going to make. You've scoped it down to something you ship. You understand what it is. Now you've got to finish it. Finishing is when you really find out what you have, because you have to make a bunch of decisions as you get towards the end of what you have to cut, what you have to change, what's not working, and that's what's going to help you find out best about your product. And as you're working through your game, you always want to make sure that you're working towards shipping. If you don't have great art, code around it. Do what you need to do so that you can ship. Always adapt. Never let anything stop you from shipping. So a really good example of this, I don't know if you've seen Spy Party from Chris Hecker. Right, here's the art that he started showing the game with. This is original art, it's not high-end art. He didn't let that stop him from showing it, taking it to trade shows, even releasing the demo. He showed this, and he just wanted to get testing. He wanted to get feedback. He didn't let the lack of high-end art stop him. Now, as he's gone on further, he's gotten high-end art. But it sent a really clear message to everyone who was looking at his game of what was important to him. It was the gameplay. And once you ship, you got to learn how to process feedback. And yes, it's the internet. People can be kind of horrible, but they can also be pretty awesome, right? And so you want to learn how to process that feedback because they're going to help you understand what you shipped. It's through their eyes that you learn out what you really did. An interview question we often use is, on your last project, what would you change? And the reason we do that is, can you self-analyze and did you learn anything from that project? Because you always should be learning from everything you ship. And if this is your first project and you hit that weird spot and you're not sure about it, don't worry. You're about to learn a truism. Your first project's going to suck. It's okay. It's not the end. It's the start. You're going to keep getting better. But this is another reason why, though, controlling your scope's really important, because it's better to find out you suck after 3 weeks than 3 years. And it might not be your first project. It may take you a while, but that's okay. I mean, with Notch, he didn't start with Minecraft. He worked first on games like Funny Farm, a match 2 game. Not saying the game sucks. Okay, but compared to Minecraft, it's a little less awesome, it's a little less open-ended. So what would have happened if he would have gotten feedback that said, hey, your game sucks, stop making games, and he'd stopped? That would have sucked for all of us. So you need to learn to understand criticism. Your game sucks, not valuable. But equally, I love your game, not valuable. I don't understand this part. I didn't understand, what was this doing? I got lost here, I was confused by this. That's valuable feedback. Those are people you want to listen to. And remember, as long as you learn from it, it's not a failure. You need to keep getting better. So once you ship, get ready to ship again. You're not typecast. You can do it again. No one's going to hold your first project against you. And it's okay to iterate. It doesn't need to be perfect before you ship it. Chris Hecker's example is really good, right? That art, he wouldn't worry about that. He knew he was going to iterate and keep getting better. So admittedly, at Valve, we may not be the fastest developers. But some of that comes from the way we work, and that's we iterate internally. And we actually iterate with each other, and so there's points in that process where it goes off the rails, and you're like, oh my God, what are we doing? But since we have a good feedback loop, eventually it gets better. And so a good example for that is a TF2 art style. So here was the first demo man. Actually, not the first demo man, right? The first demo man was in camos and very military looking. But when we decided to go off of that, we started with this. It's very Disney-like, right? Very much a caricature. We move to this. He gets a little bit more serious. This, way serious, right? And so this is one of those things. We've gone way off the path here. We've gotten really serious. And then we bring him back, and he starts loosening up a little bit. You can see there's some elements we're going to see in the final. And this is the final guy, right? So the process keeps changing, but it's okay that it changes. And when we're iterating, that doesn't mean throwing everything out. It's a real common problem we have when we're working with people from the outside is they think iteration means, oh, now we try something entirely new. If you do that, you've just thrown off the old problems for a whole set of new problems. So what you want to do is you want to always be working towards your goal. And one good way to do that's play testing. So at Valve, we bring in outside people. They play our games. We do this all through the Portal 2 process. That nobody leaked the Portal 2 story to me is always amazing, but they didn't. And we don't talk to them when they play, because you're not going to be able to sit behind the guy playing your game or playing your mod or trying to use your item, right? So you need to sit there quietly behind them and see what they're doing. What are they doing? Are they missing cues? Is something wrong? Do they not understand something? Are they getting lost? And when they are, it's not their fault. It's yours as a designer, right? So don't be scared to learn things from playtesters. We learn things all the time. So you really just want to get people playtesting it earlier than even releasing, because you first want to see what people are going to experience out there. You can even playtest ideas. If you have a game idea, say it to a friend. Often as you're doing that, you're going to find out, hey, you know what, I'm kind of lost as I'm talking about this. I better go back and think this through. And start testing with the base. A real common problem is people think, hey, I'm going to have all this cool stuff in my game, but you first have to have your base game before you can go on and pass that. So you want to test the base. And here's a really good example. What game's that? Anyone know? Some may have guessed there. If this was a video, you wouldn't even hear the cool narration that kind of defines the game. But to quote the writer, there's no use worrying about fancy storytelling tricks before you have a dude walking around in a level. This game became Bastion. Right? They first worked on the gameplay. They first worked on the map, how the levels get evolved over time. And so I'm going to read here for a second. I'm going to quote Greg Cassavan, the writer, because I was really surprised by that this came so late. And he said, we didn't really anticipate having a fully narrated game or even using voiceover at all. We just knew that we wanted the game to be meaningful, but didn't want to interrupt the play experience with traditional storytelling. So Darren, our audio director, and Logan, our voice actor, and Amir, our studio director, we're all friends. So at a certain point, Amir asked Logan to record a few lines and see if that did anything for the game. And in short, it did. To us, the narration was a means to an end, and it just sort of naturally evolved into the defining part of the game. And so this is, again, really important. There's no way they would have gotten to this and had that narration if they hadn't started trying to make the product and started at the base and getting the core of the game down. So this is all great, right? But you need to go to school. This is the most common question we get asked. Well, it comes in two flavors. What school should I attend? What classes should I take? So here's the honest answer. I don't know. If you don't know, who knows? Right? The way you find out is by trying to do something. No one is born with the knowledge to do everything that they're going to do. So what you want to do is you want to start something, try to do it, and where you find yourself lacking, where you're failing, see, is there a tutorial online? Is there a website I can learn from? Or do I need to go a 4-year program? There's only one way you're going to find out what you need, and that's by trying to accomplish a goal. And then once you do that, keep learning. At Valve, we've got a classroom. We bring in outside artists, animators, writers, even economists, because we always want to keep learning. Even if we think we know the subject, often seeing how somebody else approaches a problem will help you. And don't be scared to reach out to communities. There's a bunch of great dev communities. And it used to be back in the day, you'd have like 5 guys graduate college, they'd all get an apartment together and they'd start a game development company. But that's not how it is anymore. People are spread around the world. And so if you're active in these communities, you're going to find out that you're going to be able to hook up with people, and you're going to get better that way. And the community is really supportive, really supportive. We're not competing against each other, because we all have one goal, and that's to play cool games. And how we get to play cool games is if you make cool games. So go to these communities. You can start at Steam Greenlight, voting on games, interacting with devs there, because those devs are really keen to see people's feedback. And if not there, somewhere else. It doesn't have to be Valve stuff, but just interact, become part of the discussion. And during that process, though, you want to make sure not to lose yourself, right? Because what's going to make your game special is you. I mean, it sounds corny, but it's really true, is that you're going to be able to make what someone else can describe yours, and you're going to make it special. The example I always use, because it's fair, I said this, is that 5 years ago, you'd have told me you're going to make a 2D platformer whose game design and story matched together. I'd have been like, that sounds kind of stupid. I don't know if I want to play that. Well, Jonathan Blow thankfully ignored me, and he came up with Braid, right? And so when you're playtesting, you just want to make sure when you're playtesting, when you're getting feedback from the community, that you're not letting that beat you down. You want to make sure that you're evaluating it. Let's say you're going to make a game that's, a dinosaur swimming under the water collecting stars. And you're really thinking this is a great game, but you decide that it's got to be historically accurate. You get all this feedback that historical accuracy doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, then weigh that. Maybe if you remove that, it's going to be a pretty good game. But you have to learn how to process that feedback. And one of the ways to learn to process feedback is to see how other people do it. So again, join a developer forum, see how they're doing it. What are they doing? How are they reacting to things? Learn from other people. And this gets us to this point. During that point, also, again, people have a million ideas, right? Ideas are super cheap. And no one really knows what those ideas are until they try to execute them. Because that's when you find out, hey, you know what, this is why you can't do that. This dependency, this is going on, right? So you want to start, and you want to start with your idea, and then you can come back, and then you can tell them the reasoning that you had for your ideas. So you have to first start, though. And that's it. That's the end. I feel like I rushed through this. I probably did. What was this? 12 minutes. That can't be right. No, sorry. Sorry, I was trying not to talk too fast. But this is the end, right? So the question I've been trying to answer is how to give yourself a job in the game industry. And then, this is the answer. Just give yourself one. It's that simple. You're in control of your own destiny. Make your resume, ship it to the world. And this is why I wanted to give this talk. Because, Valve, we've been thinking about this a lot. We get asked this all the time. How to get a job in the game industry. And our simple answer used to be, just go make something. But really, you want to do more than that. You want to create something, and then you want to release it, you want feedback on it, and you want to keep getting better. And to be clear, we're not the only place you can do it. So, look other places as well. But, we wanted one place where it was kind of all tied together. And we're working on it. We're iterating on it. We released Steam Workshop. We released Steam Greenlight. And coming up soon, we're going to release software on Steam. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know, as developers, what you guys would like to see, what would help you guys. And then today, when you get home, take one of the ideas you have on whatever computer you have, with whatever software you have. Scope it down to something you can ship. Start working on it. Every day you come home from work on it some more. Show it to your friends, talk about it. Get feedback on it, have them play test it. And when it's ready, release it. And there, you just gave yourself a job in the game industry. And now on to Q&A. That time can't be right.
Don't worry, you didn't just take 12 minutes. You were fine. Can we get the house lights up at the back, please?
Hello.
Sweet. It's just so we can actually see you guys. There we go. Now, we've got guys in the audience with microphones. If you want to put your hand up if you have a question for Chet from Valve, Chet Falisek from Valve, we will find you and then we will go through. So don't be shy, put your hands up. Sweet. Right, where are we going first, guys? Over here on the right.
Oh, you're in the dark. Yeah.
Just talk, just talk.
As a games master, everybody tells me that I should find a job at the QA office and from there work my way up to a game designer, actual game designer.
So that used to be really the traditional way to do it, right? Is you kind of got into a company, you latched on, and you kind of worked your way up. That's coming from a point of weakness. You're weak there. If you come with just a resume and you've never created a game, you're coming from a point of weakness into the industry. You are. Because nobody knows you. You're just a piece of paper. You're really easy to dismiss. But if you've created something, if you've made something, it's really hard to dismiss. Everybody at work, at Valve, can talk about a bunch of different mods, a bunch of different videos, because we're looking at them, we're going, oh my God, this stuff's cool. I mean, one of the rules for what writers will hire is they have had to create something that excited us. Because if they're just a piece of paper, and if they just got a degree, make something first. I mean, I apologize if I kind of jet-laggedly ran through this, but I mean, seriously, if I could get one point across, there's a bunch of different ways that people used to get in the industry, and some of those are still valid. I mean, if you want to join Q&A and work up that way, yes, sure, you can do it. But that's just such the way that you're just not coming in with strength. You want to come in with strength. You want to show people what you can do. So make something, and it really doesn't have to be that big. People have made just some of the dumbest, stupidest things that have made us laugh that we've passed around, and then we start talking to them. I mean, Randall Glass, the guy who made the Witch versus Scout, he's local, so we actually had him in afterwards, and we talked with him, and just seeing that video, we were excited. We wanted to talk with him. We wanted to meet him. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of different ways to do it now. Don't think those traditional old ways are doing it. I mean, I think with the indie game scene growing, and those guys are making real money, right? They're doing it right. Just jump in there. Go do that. There's just so many ways you can do it now. We're at a really special time, I think, where there's a lot of opportunity, and there's just indie games now, there's never been a time in the game industry that's been this creative with this variety of people.
Cool. Where are we headed now, guys?
I didn't talk so much that we have actually time for more questions.
No, we got loads of time. Okay, in the middle there at the back. And if you wouldn't mind standing up when you're asking your question, that'd be great.
From my point of view, I
I'm not as a visual designer. What I want to get into, I've come from sort of the radio and content creation background, but my love is audio and sound creation. The hard part for that is I have, it's not no interest in making games, not really the skill to make a complete game, and that's not the area I want to get into. If I want to do something along that line that's got a specific use, if you follow what I'm saying.
What do you want to do?
Track.
What do you want to do?
Sound design.
But for what?
I don't know yet. I'm still figuring that out.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. So, I mean, have you tried, helping somebody doing a movie on Steam, on YouTube?
That's
or
sort of. I went to an indie co-working event at Google Campus recently. Hopefully a couple of guys are going to let me help them do a couple of things in that track.
How to get started now is there's so many communities on the internet. Jump in, and it's okay to ask questions. It really is. Whatever group you're in, they're going to be so excited to have somebody else that they could talk to and mentor and help. Jump in, ask questions. The thing that everyone's going to give you crap for doing, though, is, what's audio? Like, you can't be that far out. You have to have tried to do something. The minute you do that and you have a question, like, hey, I was trying to do this and this wasn't working out, or I had this problem, people are going to jump in and help. I mean, it's so much better now. I mean, when we started Old Man Murray, I was trying to figure, this is how bad it was. I bought Mosaic at a store. Remember Mosaic, the old browser? Maybe not, I'm really old. I didn't know how anything worked. I eventually set up a Windows server, and the hell was, I didn't have the internet to find out how to do this. I wanted a new internet. But now you have the internet, so the internet can help you with all this. Seriously, there's communities for everything. Mike Moravsky, our audio guy, is at some talk in San Francisco today where there's a community of people. And again, it's an outreach program, it's sharing, it's talking with people to learn. I mean, whatever you're going to do, I mean, I'm trying to apply this to games because I make games now, but it can be applied to anything. You know, just put yourself out there.
Cool. Where are we headed next? Over on the left, I think. Where are we at?
Working?
Over here? Right.
I'm going to be greedy. I've got two questions. First one, there isn't much in the way of mid-tier gaming development nowadays in the industry. So how do you make the jump from iOS development to kind of the big AAA titles? Is that still
mid-tier gaming? So I guess the kind of the AA games are falling out.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know what a AAA game is.
Well, the big budget kind of high-end development. There just seems to be quite a gulf between iOS development and that. So I'm just wondering, is that transition kind of available to people?
Well, I mean, I think if you want to get hired by a company, because I'm thinking you probably don't think you can make the AAA title by yourself. Making something, and think about it this way: if the development studio's playing your iOS game, I mean, like the guys who made Dungeon Raid, I don't know why they never listened to me and try to get on Steam, but I would talk with them in a minute about hiring them because I love that game, right? So I think making anything of high quality, again, right? You got to put enough of yourself into it, distinguish yourself. That'll gain interest.
Could I ask a second question quickly? Sorry. The role of games designer, again, it seems quite vague. When I normally ask people, they're not quite sure how you get that position. So is that something you have to work up through, or can you actually get hired?
Oh, actually, I have no idea. No, at Valve, everyone's a game designer. And I really think that's how it should be. You shouldn't have a design that you hand off to somebody and say, oh, go implement this great design, because that design's going to have problems. That design's going to have feedback. You're going to want to iterate on that. I mean, I'm not going to do it, but I could pick games that had designers where they didn't do feedback, because you can just tell strikingly, like, oh, yes, if I looked at it this exact way, I would know how to do this. But if I look at it like most people would, I'm lost. So, even Bethesda, they hire designers, but they actually are more level designers in a way. I mean, I guess we sometimes mix that, but it's, the actual design where you sit there in your ivory tower and lay down the law for other people to implement, I'm not sure. I don't think that's a good idea.
Okay, I think we're heading over here, right? Yeah, the front.
I love doing...
Keep talking, it's fine.
I love making mods, but I mainly do WOM hacking, hacking like classic N64s, NES games. I don't feel like if I gave it to a CV, as if the people would actually sort of probably look down, because I sort of, you can't legally actually get WOM, if you know what I mean. So I'm hacking like N64 games, and I love doing it. I actually love doing it under constraints. That's why I do it. But I feel like I can't really put something like that on a CV because I sort of get looked down for.
Honestly, God bless you, because there's people who have put a lot of work into stuff that I'm just amazed at. Some of the emulators and some other stuff people have done, that's awesome. And I gotta think somebody out there can see your skills of the programming it takes, the time and effort it puts in. That is a weird one. So you might want to think about branching out into something a little less shady. But no, I mean, let's be honest. There's a bunch of cool stuff people are doing there. I've seen emulators and other things going on that it's just like, do you work? Do you get paid from this? How do you have the time for this? I don't even have time to watch TV anymore.
Okay, we're in the center now. Yeah.
With Steam for Linux coming very soon, is it likely we'll see the development SDK tools being released with it?
Probably not. At least not this round, because our current tools use a lot of Microsoft library calls and stuff like that. That's why we don't have them out for the Mac. It's definitely something we're thinking about as we're thinking about the future and problems and the way things are going to rise. But right now, the tools probably won't get updated for that. I'm saying that probably because I haven't actually asked the guys that directly. That's a good question. I will ask them, but that's my gut feeling. We're going to run into the same problem we did with the Mac.
Okay, thank you.
Right, where next, guys? Over here. If you want to keep your hands up while people are asking questions, just so the other guys can come forward with mics and sort of get you set up for the next question.
Big biceps by the end
Right.
of the day.
Here we go. There's one over here on the left, I think. What's go? Oh, right, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trained in 3D Studio Max. That's what I use for making 3D models and everything else. But out of all the software that you can get nowadays and use, such as Max, Maya, ZBrush, all of that, which one would you recommend I should really use the most? Because I don't really know much about anything else except 3D Max.
You know, a lot of people use just different things. It's whatever they're the most comfortable with. So, you know, I don't know, how advanced are you in modeling?
Fairly.
So are you a part of a forum or a discussion group?
No, I've just finished a master's degree in games art. I mean...
What's that get you now?
Well, to be honest with you, there was a hell of a lot of written work involved, so I'm kind of, as you say, just doing the work.
There's some really good 3D communities out there, some really good ones. That's probably one of the strongest communities for its discipline, because it's really easy to share work and people feed off of each other. I'd suggest go there, lay out what you've done, lay out what you want to do, and people will be able to give you really tailored answer to that.
Okay. I think we've got time for 2 more questions, so where are we now, guys? Over here in the center, yes. Go ahead.
How do you feel about Kickstarter as a means for publishing games? Because there's a lot of big games that have gone onto Kickstarter now, and smaller ones as well. Do you think it's viable for the future?
It's a cool way to do it. Again, it's kind of like with the emulator guys. There's some people who've been working on games for so long, I have no idea how they have any money or time to work on it. So if it works, it's good. I mean, I am a little worried that a year or two, there's going to be this backlash when things don't get finished, when people find out the honesty of, hey, you said you were going to do it this way, but yeah, we tried to do it that way, and here's why we didn't. You know, and some people are trying to combat that by including the people who gave money in part of the process. But it's still, that's kind of a scary thing. So I mean, hopefully, I funded Kickstarters. In my heart, I figure about 60% of them, I figure will get finished. And that's a pretty good deal. So, you know, I think that's going to be interesting to see if that becomes a long-term way to do it or not. And it's definitely been awesome for people who have gotten, and I know like Tim Schafer, you know, that's absolutely awesome that he gets to do that, and that gives him a lot more freedom. So that's fun that way.
Cool, and I think the last question we're going is here in the center.
This is kind of 2 questions. I don't know whether you want to ask.
Go on.
Way to extend it.
To meet up after and talk about the other one. But the first one's more aimed towards Valve. I'm a programmer, so I don't know whether you'll be able to fully answer this, but what's the kind of thing, the process that you'll go through in interviews and what you look at when you come to have an applicant in Valve, maybe at programming or art or whatever, really? That's the first one. I'll just say the second one so you can answer it later. I've already, with a few friends, we've already started up a company, started a project already. What are the pitfalls that we can look sort of towards already, and what would you recommend sort of to look into, and kind of how we keep going with the company? Just anything really to do with that.
So first on the programming side, again, it's about making something. If you haven't shipped something, we won't hire you as a programmer. There's a few rare exceptions for people who are really deep in some weird discipline that we need. There's some students we've worked with through their masters in program and stuff, but for the most part, it's you've shipped something. You've shown your ability to do that. At Valve, we don't have managers, so we can't teach you something. You have to learn something, and I have to understand how you're going to find out about something. That's one of the ways why we approach how to get a job in the game industry that way as well, where you're not asking someone's permission, you're doing it on your own. And so it's cool that you've started a project. I would say watch how ambitious you are. That really is. It's about scoping your project and make sure you can ship it. Don't get hung up on the things that don't matter. Make sure that there's a core piece of whatever makes that unique, whatever is going to make that people want to play that you've nailed that down. Because it's always like you're not going to compete against some of the AAA titles on graphics, so don't try. What makes your game unique? What makes it interesting? And again, that's where we get to the indie stuff, where it's so interesting because they do such peculiar stuff. I don't know if people played 30 Flights of Loving. Anyone? It's not really a game per se, so I'll give you that, but you should play it. I think it's like $5. It's worth it. It's just a quirky, weird little thing, and it takes you about 5 minutes, but it's totally worth it. Because he's doing some weird, neat stuff there that you don't see, and he's done that with all of his stuff, and I'll gladly play anything he puts out because of that. So.
That's great. Thanks very much.
Actually, can I just one question to them? So, sorry if I was rushed in the talk. I'm still jet lagged. I'm use that as my excuse. So. But any feedback on how the talk went and things you thought I could have changed, let me know, because I'll iterate on it for Sunday and make that talk better. Sorry, you're going to go to the worst talk then, but that's okay.
Cool.
So
Thank you very
I'm
much,
just walking
everyone.
out. Thanks.